What if humanity's last spark of hope burned brighter than the stars themselves? What if revenge wasn't just a fleeting emotion but the very force that drove humanity to challenge an empire that spanned galaxies? This is the story of a shattered species, scattered across the cosmos, that refuses to bow. It's about a world stripped of its pride and a fight that stretches to the depths of space. What was taken wasn't just a planet, it was our future. But in the face of despair, humanity has found one reason to stand tall: revenge. The video begins with an ominous question: what does it take to challenge the gods of the galaxy? The Dominion, an alien empire of insurmountable power, has ruled unopposed for centuries. They crushed Earth, turned its cities to ash, and enslaved its people. Yet, deep within a forgotten corner of the universe, the embers of rebellion smolder. A mysterious artifact has been discovered, alien in origin, pulsating with an energy that could tip the scales of power. It's more than a relic, it's a message, a key, and perhaps, humanity's only chance. But this fragile hope is under threat as the Dominion closes in, determined to reclaim what they believe is theirs. Throughout this journey, you'll witness the heart-pounding desperation of survival, the bittersweet sting of sacrifice, and the electrifying fire of revenge. Heroes will rise, alliances will crumble, and secrets buried deep within the galaxy will surface to challenge everything humanity thought it knew. Themes of survival and transformation, humanity clings to life at the edge of extinction, but it isn't just fighting to survive, it's evolving, daring to hope, daring to fight. Themes of revenge, this isn't just a war, it's personal. The destruction of Earth isn't something the Dominion can erase, and the rebels will stop at nothing to take back what was stolen. Themes of unity and sacrifice, the story will push the characters beyond their limits, forcing them to choose between vengeance and survival, between personal loss and the greater good. This is a tale of cosmic proportions, where every decision carries the weight of millions of lives. But it's not just about battles in the void, it's about the resilience of the human spirit, the unyielding desire for justice, and the lengths we'll go to reclaim our dignity. Why should you watch this story unfold? Because it's not just about survival, it's about fighting for something greater. Humanity isn't content to survive in the Dominion's shadow, it's ready to strike back. And when the first shot is fired, the galaxy will never be the same. Stay tuned to witness humanity's most daring gamble. The war isn't over, and revenge is a dish best served across the stars. The vastness of space was both a sanctuary and a prison. In every direction, the void stretched endlessly, its silence broken only by the faint hum of distant stars and the quiet churn of unseen cosmic winds. Once, humanity had gazed upon this expanse with hope and ambition. Now, it was a graveyard of shattered dreams, a testament to the devastation wrought by the Dominion. Far from Earth, in the shadow of a dying star, lies the remnants of humanity's last stronghold. The planet, unnamed by those who live upon it, is little more than a rocky wasteland orbiting a gas giant. Its surface is a patchwork of barren plains and jagged cliffs, illuminated by the dim, flickering light of its parent star. The air carries a metallic tang, a byproduct of decades of mining operations that have stripped the land of any natural beauty. The skyline is dominated by towering spires of machinery, old, rusting constructs once built to harvest resources but now repurposed as defenses against the inevitable. These makeshift fortresses groan under the weight of time and neglect, their sharp edges silhouetted against the faint glimmer of distant galaxies. The only signs of life are the faint glows emanating from hidden settlements buried beneath the surface, where survivors cling to existence like embers in the dark. This is humanity's refuge, a place where hope feels as distant as the stars themselves. The mood is grim, weighed down by years of oppression and loss. Each day begins with the piercing wail of alarms, a warning of Dominion patrols prowling the skies. The ground trembles faintly, not from tectonic activity but from the distant rumble of mining drills, still operational in defiance of the desolation. The Dominion's presence is felt in every aspect of life. Their ships, sleek and menacing, cut through the void like predators. Occasionally, one appears in the atmosphere, its black hull shimmering ominously as it casts a shadow over the land. The faint hum of its engines resonates like a predator's growl, sending fear rippling through the scattered settlements. The Dominion isn't just an empire, it's an unrelenting force. Their soldiers, encased in biomechanical armor, are relentless and emotionless, marching with the precision of machines. The few who have faced them describe their presence as suffocating, a chill that seeps into the bones, as if the very air recoils from their existence. Yet, even in this bleak landscape, humanity refuses to be extinguished. Hidden deep beneath the surface, in the labyrinth of tunnels carved by ancient miners, lies the heart of the resistance. Here, humanity's ingenuity shines brightest. Cobbling together alien tech salvaged from Dominion skirmishes, they've managed to create weapons, shields, and ships, tools for survival in a universe that seems to conspire against them. The tone in these tunnels is tense, but determined. The air is thick with the scent of grease and ozone, punctuated by the sharp crackle of welding torches and the steady rhythm of machinery. The people here move with purpose, their eyes hardened by loss but burning with an unyielding resolve. The Dominion may dominate the stars, but here, in the shadows, humanity plots its revenge. The universe itself feels on edge, as though holding its breath. The stars seem dimmer, their light struggling to pierce the vast darkness. Even the gas giant that looms over the planet appears ominous, its swirling clouds tinged with hues of deep red and violet. This is where our story begins, on the edge of extinction, in a galaxy ruled by oppression, where humanity stands at a crossroads. In the bleakest of settings, a spark of rebellion glimmers faintly, waiting for the right moment to ignite. And when it does, the galaxy will bear witness to humanity's fury. The faint hum of machinery filled the underground base, a comforting yet foreboding rhythm that reminded the rebels of their precarious existence. Deep within the tunnels, the Resistance's central command flickered with holographic displays and hurried voices. On one screen, a Dominion patrol fleet hovered ominously in the sector, their presence a stark reminder of the enemy's unrelenting vigilance. On another, encrypted data scrolled rapidly, intel stolen from the Dominion that could change everything. The conflict wasn't just survival anymore. It was about the artifact. Discovered buried in an ancient ruin on this desolate planet, the artifact was unlike anything humanity had encountered. It pulsed faintly with a light that seemed alive, responding to touch and thought as if aware of its surroundings. The artifact's energy readings baffled even the most seasoned engineers. It was neither purely technological nor entirely organic. Its surface shimmered with symbols that defied translation, and yet, its presence felt purposeful. This could be the key, one scientist had whispered when it was first unearthed. To what? Another had asked. No one had an answer. But the Dominion seemed to know. The fleet above the planet wasn't just a patrol, it was a hunt. Intercepted transmissions revealed a chilling truth: the Dominion wanted the artifact, and they wanted it intact. The question that haunted the Resistance was why? Why would an empire as vast and powerful as the Dominion divert resources to a remote, barren planet for a single object? Tension thickened as a transmission from the surface came through, crackling with static. "We've spotted them. Dominion ground forces. They're deploying just outside the ruins." The room fell silent. The implications were clear. The Dominion wasn't just sending ships, they were sending troops. And the artifact, still being studied in the lab, was their target. The Resistance leader leaned over the holographic map, their voice calm but heavy with urgency. "How long until they breach our defenses?" A scout's voice crackled back. "An hour at most. Maybe less if they brought mechs." The rebels scrambled into action, a flurry of motion and muted curses. Makeshift weapons were distributed, plans hastily revised. The air was tense with a mix of determination and dread. They had faced Dominion forces before, but this was different. The artifact had become their hope and their burden, a reason to fight and a reason to fear. What if it fell into Dominion hands? As the rebels prepared for battle, internal conflicts began to surface. "We should destroy it," one engineer argued, their voice breaking through the chaos. "If we can't understand it, we can't let them have it." "Destroy the only thing that could give us a fighting chance," another rebel shot back. "We'd be throwing away the one advantage we have." The debate escalated, voices rising in desperation. The artifact, silent in its containment, seemed to glow faintly, as if aware of their turmoil. The leader intervened, their tone resolute. We're not destroying it. Not yet. If the Dominion wants it this badly, it's because they're afraid of what it can do. That's reason enough to keep it out of their hands. But doubt lingered, unspoken yet palpable. What if the artifact wasn't a weapon? What if it was a trap? The first tremors of the Dominion's assault rippled through the ground. Distant explosions echoed, a grim herald of what was to come. Scouts reported advanced Dominion troops, soldiers encased in biomechanical armor, supported by towering mechs that moved with terrifying precision. The Resistance's defenses, a patchwork of salvaged tech and sheer determination, were being tested. And for every moment they held the line, the artifact remained a beacon of hope, or perhaps destruction. As the Dominion forces closed in, the rebels couldn't escape the questions that gnawed at them. What was the artifact's true purpose? Why had the Dominion, an empire known for its ruthlessness, feared it enough to pursue it relentlessly? And most importantly, was it worth the cost they were about to pay? The conflict had begun, and with it came the first, faint realization that their fight wasn't just against the Dominion, it was against the unknown. The ground trembled as the first barrage of Dominion artillery struck the planet's surface. Dust and debris cascaded from the cavern ceilings of the underground base, and the distant hum of machinery faltered for a moment before roaring back to life. The Dominion had arrived in full force. In the artifact chamber, the air crackled with tension. The object, resting on its pedestal, pulsed with an intensity the rebels hadn't seen before. Its glow had shifted from faint and rhythmic to erratic and bright, as if responding to the chaos above. The symbols on its surface flickered faster, almost alive, and the energy radiating from it began to affect nearby equipment. Screens glitched, lights flickered, and the air itself seemed charged with electricity. "What's happening to it?" one of the engineers shouted, scrambling to stabilize the containment field. The artifact pulsed again, brighter this time, and a high-pitched resonance filled the room. It wasn't just a sound, it was a vibration that seemed to pierce their thoughts, pulling at their very consciousness. Several rebels staggered, clutching their heads, while others stared at the artifact in awe and fear. "It's activating," whispered a scientist, their voice trembling. Before anyone could react, the artifact emitted a shockwave of energy that rippled outward. The room shook violently, and several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. The rebels braced themselves, expecting more destruction, but the shockwave seemed to pass harmlessly through them. It didn't stop there. The shockwave surged beyond the chamber, piercing the ground above and reaching the Dominion forces. Outside, the battlefield erupted into chaos. Soldiers in biomechanical armor froze mid-step, their suits sparking violently before they collapsed. Dominion mechs, once unstoppable behemoths, shuddered and shut down, their pilots trapped inside. Even the Dominion ships overhead faltered, their sleek forms losing power and careening out of formation. What did it do?" a rebel asked, their voice barely audible over the fading hum of the artifact. The leader, who had been watching silently, stepped forward. Their eyes were fixed on the artifact, its glow now steady and purposeful. "It fought back," they said, their voice heavy with realization. But the artifact wasn't finished. It pulsed again, and this time, a holographic projection filled the room. A map of the galaxy materialized, its stars and planets rendered in exquisite detail. At its center was a massive structure, far larger than any Dominion ship or station. The hologram flickered, and symbols began to scroll rapidly across the projection before translating into human language. The Tyrant's core, the projection read. Source of control. Key to Dominion. The rebels exchanged uneasy glances. This was the revelation they had feared and hoped for. The Dominion's power wasn't just political or technological. It was centralized, controlled by this mysterious structure. Destroying it could cripple the Dominion's grip on the galaxy. But the hologram offered more. A series of coordinates appeared, marking a hidden location deep within the galaxy. The text that followed was chilling: weapon required for access. Artifact incomplete. The room fell into a tense silence. The artifact wasn't just a key, it was part of something greater. Something that had the potential to either liberate humanity or destroy it. The leader turned to the others, their expression resolute. This changes everything. We need to get to those coordinates. If this tyrant's core is what it says, we have a chance to end this war. One of the engineers spoke up, their voice filled with doubt. You're talking about going straight into Dominion-controlled space. Even if we have this thing, how do we know it'll work? We don't, the leader admitted. But if we stay here, we lose everything. They'll keep coming, and next time, the artifact might not save us. The Dominion forces, though disrupted, were already regrouping. Reports of incoming reinforcements flooded the comms. Time was running out. The rebels faced a choice: stay and fight a losing battle, or take the artifact into the unknown, risking everything for a slim chance at victory. The leader's voice cut through the tension. Get the artifact on the ship. We leave in 10 minutes. If we're going to strike back, it starts now. And with that, the course of humanity's fight changed forever. The rebel ship surged through hyperspace, its engines straining under the weight of its cargo and the urgency of its mission. The artifact, now fully active, hummed faintly in its containment chamber. Its glow bathed the room in a pale, otherworldly light, casting long shadows across the faces of the rebels gathered around it. They had escaped the Dominion's forces for now, but the tension in the air was palpable. The galaxy seemed to conspire against them. Reports of Dominion reinforcements chasing their trail came in bursts over the comms, each one carrying grim news. The Dominion's response was escalating, blockades forming near key routes, scout ships probing the edges of the nebula they had entered. The artifact's mysterious energy, once their shield, was now their beacon. The Dominion would stop at nothing to reclaim it. The rebels' destination was a set of coordinates buried deep in uncharted space, a region riddled with gravitational anomalies and energy storms that tore apart even the most advanced ships. Navigating this treacherous expanse would be a gamble, and the ship's pilot knew it. The path ahead wasn't just dangerous, it was nearly suicidal. Inside the ship, the strain of the journey was beginning to show. The rebels, though united in purpose, were divided in thought. Some questioned the artifact's true nature, its origins, and whether it was worth the mounting cost. Others feared the Dominion's relentless pursuit, knowing they had only delayed the inevitable. One of the engineers broke the uneasy silence, slamming a wrench onto a console. "This thing," they said, pointing at the artifact, "is going to get us all killed. We don't even know what it really does. And we're risking everything for it." Another rebel shot back, their voice sharp. "It saved us. You saw what it did back on the planet. If we can use it against the Dominion." "And if we can't," the engineer interrupted. "What if it's not a weapon? What if it's a trap?" The leader stepped in, their voice calm but firm. "Enough. Doubt won't save us. The artifact is our best chance, and right now, it's the only one we've got." But even the leader couldn't ignore the mounting toll. The ship's supplies were running low, the crew exhausted from the relentless pursuit. And then there was the artifact itself. Its increasing activity was causing disruptions throughout the ship. Lights flickered unpredictably, systems rebooted without warning, and strange, incomprehensible symbols appeared on monitors. Then came the first real test. As they approached the outer edge of the uncharted sector, the ship's sensors detected a Dominion blockade lying in wait. A fleet of ships, larger and more heavily armed than anything the rebels had faced before, spread out across the void like a net. The rebels had no choice but to change course, plunging deeper into the unstable region of space. The nebula was alive with chaos. Swirling clouds of energy crackled with electric storms, and gravitational anomalies tugged at the ship, threatening to tear it apart. The crew scrambled to stabilize the vessel as the Dominion fleet pursued them, their sleek ships navigating the dangers with terrifying precision. The rebels' desperation reached a breaking point as the Dominion closed in. The artifact, as if sensing their plight, flared brighter than ever. Its glow filled the cockpit, and the symbols on its surface shifted rapidly. Suddenly, the ship's navigation system lit up with a new set of coordinates the artifact seemed to provide. "We can't trust it," the engineer yelled, panic in their voice. "We don't have a choice," the leader replied. "Plot the course." The ship veered sharply, diving into the heart of the nebula. The Dominion fleet hesitated, their ships faltering in the face of the region's intense energy storms. For a moment, the rebels gained a fragile lead, but the strain on the ship was evident. Hull integrity warnings blared, and sparks flew from overloaded consoles. The physical toll was matched by the emotional weight bearing down on the crew. Every decision felt like a gamble, every moment another step closer to oblivion. The rebels knew that even if they survived the nebula, their fight was far from over. The artifact's destination loomed ahead, an unknown beacon calling to them from the darkness. As the ship emerged into a pocket of calm, the rebels caught their first glimpse of their destination. A massive structure, ancient and imposing, floated in the void. Its surface was etched with the same alien symbols as the artifact, glowing faintly as if in recognition. The leader stared at it, their expression a mix of awe and dread. "This is it," they said softly. "Whatever happens next, we finish this." Behind them, the Dominion fleet emerged from the storm, their pursuit unrelenting. The stakes had never been higher, and the rebels had no choice but to press forward. The galaxy wasn't giving them a second chance. The rebel ship hung in the stillness of space, dwarfed by the ancient structure that loomed before it. The structure was unlike anything they had seen before, a massive, labyrinthine fortress floating in the void, its surface covered in glowing symbols that pulsed faintly in rhythm with the artifact. The air inside the ship was thick with tension and awe as the crew prepared to breach what they now believed to be the heart of their mission. The artifact, cradled in its containment chamber, began to glow more intensely, its light casting eerie patterns on the walls. Suddenly, a beam of energy shot out from it, connecting to the structure. The ship's systems flared to life, monitors displaying alien glyphs and incomprehensible data streams. Then, the artifact spoke, not in words, but in a resonance that echoed in their minds. "The tyrant's call lies within. Unlock the path." The leader leaned closer to the display, their jaw tight. "What does it mean?" "What core?" Before anyone could answer, the artifact pulsed again, and the ship's navigation systems lit up with a detailed map of the structure. At its center was a glowing sphere, pulsating with energy, an unmistakable power source. The glyphs translated themselves into a chilling revelation. "The core controls the Dominion. Destroy it to sever their power." The rebels exchanged uneasy glances. The idea was almost too incredible to believe. The Dominion's vast empire, its fleets, its armies, all of it controlled by this one source? If the artifact was right, destroying the core could bring the Dominion to its knees. But the artifact wasn't finished. A new set of coordinates appeared on the map, this time pointing to a hidden chamber deep within the structure. Beneath the coordinates was a warning: defenses active. Sentience detected. "What does that mean?" one of the engineers asked, their voice shaking. "Sentience? Are we talking about a machine or something alive?" The artifact offered no further clarification, leaving the rebels with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear: they had no choice but to proceed. The core was their only chance to cripple the Dominion, and now that they were here, there was no turning back. As the ship docked with the structure, the rebels prepared for what lay ahead. Armed with salvaged weapons and their dwindling resolve, they entered the fortress. The air inside was cold and stale, carrying a faint hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Lights flickered dimly, casting long shadows that danced eerily in the corridors. As they ventured deeper, the glyphs on the walls began to shift and glow, responding to the artifact in their possession. It felt as though the structure was watching them, assessing their every move. The tension was suffocating, each step forward weighed down by the uncertainty of what awaited them. Then they encountered the first defense. A figure stepped into the corridor ahead, its form humanoid but unmistakably alien. Its body was a fusion of organic tissue and mechanical parts, its glowing eyes fixed on the artifact. Without warning, it attacked, moving with a speed and precision that defied logic. The rebels fought desperately, their weapons barely slowing the creature. It seemed to anticipate their every move, countering with deadly efficiency. It wasn't until the artifact pulsed again, emitting a shockwave of energy, that the creature faltered, giving the rebels a chance to destroy it. Panting and blooded, the crew regrouped, their fear now mingled with a growing realization the defenses weren't just machines. They were alive, and they were connected to the artifact. "This isn't just a fortress," the leader said, their voice grim. "It's a living system. And it doesn't want us here." The rebels pressed on, each encounter with the fortress's defenses growing more brutal. The stakes were clear: if they failed, the Dominion would hunt them down, and the last hope for humanity's freedom would be lost. As they approached the chamber containing the core, the artifact's glow intensified, filling the corridors with its light. The rebels knew they were close, but the weight of the revelation hung heavily on their shoulders. The Dominion's power wasn't just technological, it was something far greater, far darker. And to destroy it, they would have to face whatever lay at the heart of this ancient, sentient structure. The chamber at the heart of the fortress was massive, a cavernous expanse pulsing with energy that radiated heat and light. At its center, the core floated, a shimmering sphere of energy encased in a lattice of alien machinery. The artifact in the rebels' possession pulsed in sync with the core, its glow so intense now that it was almost blinding. The rebels stood at the entrance to the chamber, their breaths shallow, their bodies battered from the relentless onslaught of the fortress's defenses. Each step toward the core felt heavier than the last, the oppressive atmosphere pressing down on them. The room seemed alive, the walls pulsing faintly as if in rhythm with an unseen heartbeat. "This is it," the leader said, their voice steady but tense. "The core." As they moved closer, the core reacted. The energy surrounding it flared, an alien glyph scrawled across the walls and floor began to shift, forming new patterns. The artifact in the leader's hand trembled violently, its light flashing erratically. Sentience engaged, a deep, resonant voice echoed throughout the chamber, stopping the rebels in their tracks. It wasn't coming from a speaker or machine, it was as though the fortress itself was speaking to them. A figure materialized in front of the core, its form towering and imposing. Like the other defenders they had encountered, it was a fusion of organic and mechanical, but this one was different. Its presence exuded authority, and its eyes burned with an intelligence that felt ancient and unyielding. "You dare intrude upon the seat of Dominion power," it said, its voice carrying a mix of disdain and curiosity. "You are bold, but foolish. The core is eternal. Your struggle is meaningless." The leader stepped forward, gripping the artifact tightly. "We're here to end this," they said, their voice firm despite the fear in their eyes. "The Dominion's reign ends today." The figure tilted its head, almost amused. "You think you can destroy what has stood for millennia? The core is not merely a machine. It is life itself. And you," it gestured toward the rebels, "are insignificant." The chamber trembled as the core flared again, sending ripples of energy outward. The rebels staggered, struggling to keep their footing as the figure advanced. With a single motion, it summoned a weapon, a staff-like device crackling with energy, and charged. The battle began. The rebels scattered, each taking up defensive positions around the chamber. Blasts of energy erupted from the staff, carving through the air and leaving trails of destruction in their wake. The leader engaged the figure directly, their salvaged weapon crackling as it clashed with the staff. The impact sent shockwaves through the chamber, the sound deafening. The rest of the crew fought to protect the leader, fending off smaller constructs that emerged from the walls and floor. These defenders, though smaller, were fast and relentless, their attacks coordinated with the figure's movements. The rebels were outnumbered, outgunned, and on the verge of collapse. The artifact, still in the leader's grasp, began to pulse more violently, its energy building as the battle raged. The glyphs on its surface shifted, and it emitted a high-pitched resonance that pierced through the chaos. "What's it doing?" one of the rebels shouted, barely dodging a strike from a construct. "I don't know," the leader yelled back, blocking another attack from the figure. "But it's doing something." The artifact flared brighter, and a wave of energy erupted from it, sending the constructs flying. The figure staggered, its movements faltering for the first time. The core dimmed momentarily, as if reacting to the artifact's surge. Seizing the moment, the leader pressed forward, aiming their weapon at the core. But the figure recovered quickly, blocking the strike and retaliating with a forceful blow that sent the leader crashing to the ground. "You cannot destroy the core," the figure said, standing over the leader. It is beyond your comprehension, beyond your reach. The leader struggled to their feet, blood trickling from a wound on their forehead. Maybe, they said, their voice hoarse but defiant. But we're not leaving without trying. With a final burst of energy, the artifact emitted another shockwave, this one directed entirely at the core. The glyphs on the walls and floor glowed brighter, their pattern shifting into something coherent, a single word in the rebels' language: disrupt. The leader understood. The artifact wasn't just a key or a weapon. It was a disruptor, capable of destabilizing the core's connection to the Dominion. "Cover me," the leader shouted, charging toward the core. The rebels rallied, throwing everything they had at the figure and the remaining constructs. Explosions lit up the chamber, and the walls trembled as the fortress began to destabilize. The leader reached the core, placing the artifact into a receptacle at its base. The reaction was immediate. The core screamed, not in sound, but in a psychic wave that shook the rebels to their core. The energy surrounding it became unstable, arcs of lightning tearing through the chamber. The figure let out a guttural roar, its body cracking and splintering as the core's disruption affected it. I cannot win," the figure bellowed, lunging toward the leader. But it was too late. The artifact unleashed its full power, sending a final surge of energy into the core. The sphere shattered, its lattice collapsing in a cascade of sparks and fire. The fortress groaned, its structural integrity failing as explosions ripped through its walls. The rebels scrambled back to the ship, dragging the injured with them as the fortress began to implode. The leader was the last aboard, collapsing onto the deck as the ship's engines roared to life. The fortress detonated behind them, a brilliant explosion that lit up the void. The shockwave rocked the ship, but they managed to stabilize, watching as the Dominion central power source was reduced to nothing. In the silence that followed, the rebels stared at the viewport, their expressions a mix of exhaustion, relief, and disbelief. The core was gone, and with it, the Dominion's unshakable grip on the galaxy. The leader, still clutching the now dormant artifact, exhaled heavily. "We did it," they said, their voice barely audible. "We actually did it." But even in their victory, questions lingered. What was the artifact's true origin? Was the Dominion truly defeated, or was this just the beginning of a new war? The stars stretched endlessly before them, filled with both promise and uncertainty. Humanity had struck back, but the fight for the galaxy was far from over. The rebel ship drifted in the quiet expanse of space, its battered hull a testament to the battle it had just survived. The destruction of the core had sent shockwaves across the galaxy, both figuratively and literally. Reports trickled in over the comms, confirming what the rebels had dared to hope: Dominion forces were in chaos. Their fleets, once a perfectly synchronized menace, were now scattered and disorganized, their control severed with the core's fall. In the ship's common room, the surviving rebels gathered around a holographic map of the galaxy. Key Dominion strongholds flickered on the display, their status marked as vulnerable or abandoned. Yet, amidst the small victories, the atmosphere was somber. They had achieved the impossible, but at a heavy cost. The leader stood at the center of the group, the artifact now dim and inert in their hands. Its surface was cool to the touch, its once pulsing light extinguished as if it had fulfilled its purpose. They stared at it in silence, their mind racing with questions. The artifact had been the key to their survival, but what exactly had they unleashed? The core was gone, but the Dominion's vast empire still loomed. "We've struck a blow they'll never recover from," one rebel said, breaking the silence. Their voice carried a mix of pride and exhaustion. "The Dominion's done for." Another shook their head, their expression wary. "Don't be so sure. We've seen how resilient they are. They'll regroup. Maybe not today, but soon." The leader raised their gaze, their voice quiet but firm. "This isn't the end. It's a beginning." They set the artifact down on the table, its dull surface a stark contrast to its earlier brilliance. "We've shown the galaxy that the Dominion can bleed. Now, we have to make sure they fall." Outside the ship, the stars seemed brighter, freer, as if reflecting the faint hope that now burned within the rebels. Yet even in the light of their victory, shadows lingered. The Dominion may have been weakened, but it was far from defeated. And the core's destruction had revealed another truth: humanity wasn't alone in its defiance. Other forces were stirring in the galaxy, some of them allies, others unknown. Suddenly, a faint beep from the ship's console interrupted the conversation. A transmission, encrypted and distant, blinked on the screen. The pilot frowned, decrypting it with practiced efficiency. The message was brief but chilling. The core was only one piece. The real tyrant watches from the void. The room fell silent as the rebels processed the ominous words. Was the core truly the Dominion's central power, or was it merely a fragment of something much larger? The map of the galaxy loomed before them, its countless stars hiding both promise and peril. The leader turned to the crew, their expression resolute. "We've started something we can't stop now. If there's more out there, we'll face it together." The camera pans out, showing the ship silhouetted against the endless stars. In the distance, faint flashes of light, skirmishes, perhaps, hint at the battles still to come. The galaxy is far from free, but humanity has proven it will no longer stand in the shadows. What lies beyond the next star? Is the Dominion truly broken, or is a greater power waiting in the darkness? If you're curious to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and stay tuned for the next chapter of Humans Striking Back: Revenge in the Depths of Space. The fight has only just begun.